Davis, who's going to bring us up to snuff on the Garland County issues concerning the water project.
Well, thank you guys for letting me come and speak today, or asking me to speak. I don't really care to go and speak to large groups because I'm not good at that, but I always don't mind coming here because it feels like I'm coming home. So, the water issue is very controversial. Everybody's got an opinion, and more or less what I'm going to talk about today is my opinion on the current plan to go to Lake DeGray. I see some positive things about DeGray. And I'm going to tell you a couple's about it. Let me put it that way. I think, I got to applaud the city for going to DeGray and securing rights for 20 million gallons worth of water in the future. I think that if we don't secure water rights for our area and for Garland County in the future, we're going to be in trouble. Today, everybody's looking at Lake Ouachita, Lake DeGray, even people in Texas. So we want to make sure that water is secure for our area in the future for our kids and grandchildren. I don't necessarily think it's the first choice for us to go to DeGray and start planning a pipeline and all this kind of stuff. But I really think my concern about that is that it's the unknown of the future of pumping water, 15 million gallons a day, Lake DeGray to a plant somewhere in southern part of the county. That cost for the ratepayers could be astronomical in the future. We don't know. We got an estimate, all we got. And I didn't think the estimate, to me, what I seen looked like it was enough to cover the cost in the future. So on that aspect, I think there needs to be a better look at Lake Ouachita. The meetings that I've sat in with the Corps of Engineers, sounds like this study will be completed in the next 6 months. I think we can wait 6 months to see if we can get water out of Lake Ouachita. I think that's our #1 priority. Another reason that they're saying that and this is a legitimate reason, they're saying that we need a plant in the southern part of the county is because of THMs. Trihalomethane. And that, in case you guys don't know, that's water contact with chlorine over long periods of time. So if your plant's on the west side of the county and you're pumping water all the way to the south or the east side of the county, you're creating these THMs. And that is a real concern for public health. So their idea of setting a plant on 7 South would actually produce the water closer to where it's being used. That's not a bad idea, but I think there's other ways to look at that instead of using DeGray as our primary choice and trying to set a plant on 7 South. I think it needs to be looked at in a different manner. It's a difficult issue, no doubt. One other reason that they want to set a plant on 7 South is because they say this is where the growth is going to come in the future. That's another person's opinion. I have a different idea and a different opinion of where I think growth's going to come in the future. I think it's going to be 270 West. It's been 70 West for years, and I think 270 West will be our next growth spurt. Because the next 5-lane highway that we're going to get is going to be 270 West from the Mountain Pine Junction to the bridge. So usually where infrastructure and roads are widened, people go. And if you've ever been out there in the afternoons and see the traffic on 270, it's already out there. So once that road improves, I think we're going to have growth out there. So I think they're saying 7 South is going to be the main growth spurt. I'm not so sure of that. This has all been created by a so-called water shortage, an emergency water shortage. And I will just tell you that I've been in the construction business for 35 years. I actually, when I decided to slow down, I went to work for the city for 2 years as a project coordinator. This discussion that we're currently having over supply and demand was going on 10 years ago. The numbers had not changed. The only difference back then, we had an economical growth spurt. That was before the economy went down. And probably if the economy hadn't went down, we would have been in trouble. But the difference between the summer months that they supply water, their demand for water, the 23 million gallons a day that they're talking about, it was pretty much the same spread from what they could produce then and what the demand was. It hasn't changed a whole lot. Growth hasn't happened in the last few years because of the economy. So I don't think that those 59 days a year that I heard was quoted as being within the guidelines of a disaster, I don't think we're there. I think we have a long-term issue that we need to be looking at countywide, not just Hot Springs, but for the entire county. I think the creation of this, and what else makes me think that there's not an emergency right now? Look at the policy that's been set by the city board. If we have a disaster with water right now, it should be a system-wide disaster. It should not be that we have the ability to, if you will annex into the city, you can have anything you want. But if you're outside the city, you can have a water main. That tells me there's not a disaster. There is no conservation method being levied out on the system because, I mean, the facts are that you can save about 1 to 2 million gallons a day in the summer months by making people water their yards on alternate days. They're not doing that. So that tells me there's not a problem. It's a problem made up because they want to grow and because it's about money. Last year I had 12 voluntary annexation cases in county court. Every one of them I asked them why they wanted to annex into the city. You need to understand, I don't care if people annex into the city. I think that's a personal choice. You should do that if you want to. Every one of them told me because we need water to develop our property. And if we don't annex, they're not going to give us water. That shouldn't be happening. I think that's wrong. I don't think anybody in Garland County should have rights to clean water and affordable water and sewer, and annexation and things of that nature should not be held over their heads. I believe that. The Forum Court has taken a step to figure out what the process is to have a county-wide water commission. If you haven't read the resolution, you need to read it. I think it's a good one. It's not bad-mouthing Hot Springs in any manner. In fact, it's actually applauding them for the things I just talked about. But I think we should be working together to ensure that everybody in Garland County has water for the future. We have 5 different water systems servicing Garland County presently. To me, if we had a county-wide regional type system, and this is what we need to study and find out what's the best process to do this, because there's multiple ways to do this. You can have a water association, you can have a regional association. There's another one in between, Bill, that I'm not sure about. But I think we're going to have a professional guide us through this to make sure we do the right things. To me, all these systems should be connected. Hot Springs Village, North Garland County, Rural Water, Kimsey, and Hot Springs should be in a position that they can help produce water and service each of their kinds of needs. I have talked to all of the other water systems except for Hot Springs because we've had this discussion before and they weren't interested. But I have talked to Kimsey. They're interested in the concept. North Garland County is interested in the concept. The village is positive about the concept. To me, it's the best for everybody in the county, and we should be looking for that. And I think the Forum Court, right now we got a mayor and 6 board members that's controlling what happens out in the county, telling you whether you can have or have not water. That's not right. The Forum Court represents all the people, whether you live in a city or you live in the county. They represent all the people. They need to step up, and they are. 2 of them are here today, and I think they're all on board to start looking into this process of having a regional water system and trying to secure water rights for the Association of Garland County from Lake Ouachita. I think if we're all tied together, we have more bargaining power. We're representing 100,000 people rather than 35,000. We have the ability to possibly get grants to help this stuff, get it installed and get it in place, because we represent more people. So that's some of the things that I've been thinking about in this water issue. I'm not going to tell, I think a lot of the things with the city is because they have a different idea of what they should be doing rather than it's for this small group, benefits for the small group rather than the whole group. And at some point in time, we're going to have to lay all this out on the table, air our differences, and make this go together. We're working for the unity of the whole county. Currently, I think they do more damage stopping economic development and growth in our region, in our county, because they won't supply water. Their mindset is set around tourism. We should be after jobs that are paid good wages. It never has happened in the last 35 years that I've been paying attention to it inside this county. I don't know how we're going to get to that point, but we're going to have to keep trying. You guys got any questions of me, George?
Judge Davis, I greatly appreciate what the Quorum Court's doing. There's a rumor about town, I don't know if you've been privy to it, that Walmart's looked at the property out near Pittman Road. They wanted to build a store. I don't know whether they wanted to build another superstore. They wanted to perhaps build one of their Walmart markets. And the city manager reportedly rumored that he just said, no way we're going to give anybody water out there till we get this resolved. Now, if we go back to the harps and this, we've determined it's somewhat less than 20 residences, or I think the number was actually less than 10, but I'll be generous. That's all the water these commercial kind of stores use. And the city, and I like the position you've taken. I want to tell you I support you 100%, not give them a damn inch, because all they want is revenue. And I don't know where Watkins head is, but it's not above ground on some of this stuff. So we have to continue to fight it, and whatever support the Quorum Court needs, I encourage every member of the Tea Party and the public to do so, because you're our only hope, because they're not listening at all. I applaud what they did, getting the water to DeGray, but not developing it.
I agree 100%. And yes, Walmart has wanted to put a super center out on 70 West there at Pittman Road on that 40-acre tract that they're very right on. They were told they couldn't have water until 2017 or 18 to come back in. That development right there costs a lot of economical development, because the material that goes into those jobs are usually purchased inside Hot Springs. They actually cut their own truck. It's cost about 200 jobs. Even though Walmart is probably not the best employer, but they are jobs. We don't need to discourage this kind of stuff.
Well, what Walmart brings to the community, though, or to a position, is they bring all those little ancillary things there and growth in the area. So, but a lot of people that are employed at Walmart aren't employed elsewhere, and I think we always have to say that yes, are they a lower level employer, but we have people that need those jobs just exactly like people need jobs at the hospital.
You're exactly right. We need to keep continuing those jobs. Walmart doesn't use a lot of water. What does a super center have? About one set of bathrooms, about like a restaurant. Very little. Their usage is probably not more than a couple of hours, but it creates a lot of things for around the county. Ready?
Magic Springs and Crystal Falls uses a lot of water too.
Yeah.
I was wanting to mention this, after Thursday's meeting at the library, I did a quick Google research on trihalomethanes. And when you see 10 different references saying the same thing, you kind of agree that there's something to it. But two methods of removing that THM was aeration and carbon filtration.
Right.
So,
And that's what I mean. There's other ways to take care of this.
That's not going to cost $225 million.
Right. Yeah, and that's You know, we'll never know what that cost is till they take bids, but the reality is, I heard a $62 million number. Bob's got a 220 number. It's gonna be somewhere in between. I would be willing to say and bet money it's gonna be around 100 million to get water into the plant and build a plant on the east end, on the south end of town. And then you've got improvements beyond that. So, and you gotta connect your system. And right now, our water system is designed to come from the north because all of our elevated tanks are sitting up on West Mountain at a certain elevation that feeds the whole system. You're talking about only not pumping from DeGray. Once you get it down into the system, you're going to put it back up into those elevated tanks. So I mean, it's a twofold pump system. That's my opinion. I'm not the government executive here, but I've asked a lot of people about this, and I haven't got a positive answer out of anybody that has knowledge of water systems.
Judge, just a clarification. There was the Corps of Engineers, according to Mr. Watkins, I believe, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, said that wasn't viable to use. We just couldn't get there, couldn't get the road, something about the Ouachita intake. What do you expect to be different, or why do you think that might be different?
Well, I think when they get the
Because the
results
study's
of
not
study,
complete yet.
I'm not sure I know 100% what the Corps is going to do. But I'm saying it's worth waiting 6 months to figure that out. I know for a fact that things were changed when North Garland County decided they wanted water. Hot Springs would not supply them water in the past. The rules
Found a way.
they got an intake in Lake Ouachita. That's not beyond them doing again, the way I look at it. Now, the water is a little bit more expensive because you're taking it out of the power pool. And the study was whether they could raise the lake 4 inches. And that's what he's going to study the tank to make sure that it would hold an additional 4 inches of water, which is a big area.
And the timing on that is not exorbitant on this study. Would you say 6 months at the most?
And that's the reason I was kind of alluding to our current water problem that they're saying that we're in. And I'm not saying we're not in dire need somewhere down the road.
We can live with the 6-month delay in order to get the right information.
I think they need to research this and look at it a little harder. That's my opinion, and you guys understand. Everybody's got an opinion. Yes, sir.
This may be sort of the same thing, but what is the next thing that needs to be done to start moving policy in a good direction?
I think that at some point we're going to have a mediator, and I would rather do it without the newspaper. I don't think that's going to happen, but we need some of the foreign court members and some of the board members to sit down in a room and let's talk about this. I see nothing but benefits about working together. I see nothing but trouble if we don't work together. So that's where I'm running. And I spent a long time with an engineer from Kinsey Water. He said they're more than willing. In fact, they're going to up their capability for production out of DeGray. They're more than willing to hook into our system, supply water when we need it and when we don't, work together if they ever get into trouble. And in the future, we have a plant sitting on the west side of the county. We could sell them water. It's kind of a twofold deal. But I had this discussion with Hot Springs behind closed doors, and they just kind of blew it off with Kinsey for a short-term fix is what we talked about. They just kind of blew it off and said they can't help us. Well, they don't want no help. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
This is one city resident and a Tea Party member who was real glad to see that the county is going to come on board and try to join us and try to see what we can get done. And I like what you had to say myself. I'm very much in agreement with your viewpoint. And we tried to get the city to listen to us, but they've not been receptive at all to us. So perhaps some more numbers of citizens that get on board, perhaps that'll carry more weight. And I like the idea of slowing this thing down and giving it some more time to really study it out, and instead of them trying to ram it on through, But anyway, thank you so much.
Well, I think since Monday, when this resolution come out, that evidently said they knew nothing about it, which I know that's wrong, because I sent it out to numerous people beforehand, but I know I had to get back to the city board and other people, but now they have no knowledge of it at all. And from what I understand, they put it in high gear for the grade. They're running wide open to get to the grade. Great. So,
How does it affect that now they've already passed the bonds and they've been sold? How does that work into this? Is there, I mean, if we've done all this before the
I
bond.
don't know how the bonds are written, but to me, you guys should be able to recoup your money that you paid out of those bond issues for securing water down here. I don't know what you've done with the engineer. I'm sure things can be settled if they wanted to. But I've sat and talked with your engineer too. And I've stressed pretty hard, and I put my hand on the map on 70 West, why is the plant not, 270 West, why is the plant not located here? And he said, well, that's my number 2 choice. And I said, that's my number 1 choice. But they've already looked at all this stuff, and they know both ends of it. I don't know the reasoning why they just keep pushing that way. There is other options and ways to do this that I think will be cheaper in the long run and currently by building out there. It'll be cheaper to build it out there than it will do the rest.
So the bond issue can be applied to an alternate.
You're gonna have, that's the lawyer question. You're gonna have to find out how to do it. If I told you that, I'd be wrong. Yes, sir.
Who uses more water, the county or the city?
I don't think the city understands how much water the county uses. But Mr. Watkins has told me numerous times that we need to supply our own and they'll cut us off at the city limits.
What I was thinking about is, it should be a county issue. The justices should be deciding what it is, because you got more people involved, more area involved, and then the city can approve or disapprove something. I don't see what this bill said, the city problem.
I may try to ask for that to see how many meters are outside the city limits, but I know for a fact there's more meters outside the city limits than there are inside the city limits. Sandy.
There was swimming jobs on Lake DeGray closed because of E. coli. The bacteria uses the smaller, lower areas of water. Is the lowest intake on Lake DeGray deep enough, or is there a possibility of E. coli?
I think we're very fortunate in this area. We have the 2 best water sources in this country. Lake DeGray and Lake Ouachita are the cleanest water you're going to find anywhere. Now they are closing some of these beaches for E. coli, but that's because of the geese population, which is, and then when they wash it down, it goes out there and gets in the lake. But that's not a big factor in that water. It's some of the best water in this country. We're fortunate to have those 2 lakes set. Any other questions? Ready?
I just wanted to say that I appreciate the forum for taking a proactive measure, and as a county resident, I really appreciate it. I spent, I was trying to figure it out, several $1,000s I paid for my city water and sewer.
And I think if we do this, that's going to be the next discussion point with the city, because they actually, most of these districts that were paid for years ago, they were turned over to the city as for maintenance or for the city ownership. I understand that. The reality is the city's never paid for anything. In fact, I'll use 70 West Water. And I installed 2 sections of that pre-contract deal out there back in the 80s. That system was put in properly. It worked good. The city's never spent a dime on that water. It's been a cash cow collecting 1.5 times what they do in the city since 1986 or 7. They really haven't spent a lot of money. They fixed a few leaks. They've done some things like that. Now the sewer portion of it, they have added some money to that. So that's going to be the big discussion. Those residents out there paid for that improvement for 20 years. It's been nothing but a revenue gainer for the city. And now they want to come by and use it for development of property. You can't have this.
if the county came up with a county-wide system, how would that affect the city? And their revenue?
You know, and that's one thing I don't want to do. I don't want to hurt Hot Springs. But that's being, it's going to affect them pretty good because they're not going to need as many employees. It's going to change their whole aspect of looking at things. I think they'll have to look at things here. Because the reality is, that's the reason we need somebody to look at this for the county, is you're going to have to set up some kind of a maintenance deal. You will have employees. You will have a billing system, just like they're doing for Hot Springs, but it'll be more of the association type deal. The thing I like about the association is controlled by, if we do all this connection to systems, I think that commission will be set up with people from each one of those other systems to have input and say what goes on within the system. They'll actually operate this. Because it is a county issue, it'll have to come through the Corps Board. Or budgets and things, but that commission, it should be set up with people like Bill Blum, who have a knowledge of water systems. That's the way Hot Springs was set up many years ago, and once the city kind of got their hands on it, it went broke, didn't it, Bill? Yeah.
What is the elevation of the highest tank?
I think that around 780 up on the southwest mountain. And I think the highest point out here south of town is going to be somewhere in the 890 miles, so you got to get over that to get back into Hot Springs.
The
rough
Ouachita,
numbers don't hold me to that.
Ouachita is a little below
I don't remember what
the highest
Ouachita
tank.
578. 578.
is. Is it 578?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a lot lower than that. The tank's up on the map.
Just clarification again, the kind of governance you're talking about is a genuine change if we went countywide with different areas and units participating in governance. So the county wouldn't turn into just the retail water seller like the city, according to Mr. Watkins, he says that's what they are, they're just the retail water seller.
Right.
Okay, so that would not, it wouldn't just change to us, the county, being,
There's a lot of ways to go about it, and I don't know until we research this how that would all work. To me, it would be taking over areas outside the city limits, at least that's what they
but
told me.
it wouldn't be you specifically and the county JPs. It wouldn't be you taking over the governance. It would be a created,
One in water commission that would work underneath the county.
whose sole purpose would be the
Student
distribution
operation.
and purchase and acquisition of water for all of those people, so that you wouldn't be in the water business to better your income for the county.
Yes.
You're not sure.
And that's where we gotta find
Yeah,
out the
okay.
pros and the cons of this, but the reality is, you've already got these other established districts, like Kinsey, like North Garland, Hot Springs, and there's also things we gotta look at for service area. What will the state allow for service area? That may be a problem, because Hot Springs has their little marks on the roof.
I've heard mention like an autonomous board, and if we understand, that's the same thing that A&P has. So it's kind of untouchable by the governing water systems or not. When I hear autonomous board, I hear we're in charge and
The boards I've seen are not with water, and Bill may want to respond to this, but they are touchable. If they get out of control, they're appointed through the Corps Board. So, but I think the positive side of that is you're actually putting people that have knowledge of water and sewer. I mean, right now, when they bring water issues to the board of directors, I don't think there's one person on there that has a clue what the operations of water and sewer is on the board of directors. So any information laid out in front of you, you won't know. You're just taking the word of somebody. I gotta go.
That's why I'm standing up. I know you gotta go. He has another meeting. Thank you for a wonderful job. Well, you know, the city of Detroit has just gone to the UN to get the UN to get them water-free, because the UN is saying that water is a human right. So that's what we have to do. Garland County has to go to the UN and bring it up.
Don't mention that, Jack, that might be more true than you think.
Hey,